It was cool to win this race a couple years ago. That's you know, I grew up going to this race a lot, watching Dad run it. Spending time with the family. Memorial Day weekend is always really special. Being able to see a lot of troops and meet their families around the racetrack and meet the families who's, with their son or daughter that's riding with us, on our windshield is always a really special moment. But yeah, it was neat to accomplish, a huge feat 2 years ago. Um, and last year I thought we had a decent run going and we unfortunately didn't finish it, but it is a tough place. And, no matter what race it is at Charlotte, like whether it's the 600, whether it's the Roval, whether it was, it used to be Bank of America 500 or whatever it was, before the Roval, it's just a tough place. And then the 600-mile race is just another kind of test of your grit and your determination and what teams can kind of outlast, what teams can stay in it all night and be where they need to be at the end. So it is a tough racetrack, but that's what makes it really gratifying if you can do it.
Ryan, long time no see, my friend.
Yeah. See you.
Good to see you too. As a past winner of the Coke 600, I have to ask, how much does adaptability still factor in with the transition from dusk to nightfall, even with the stage breaks in place?
Yeah, you really have to be able to adjust. That's a huge swing. We all talk about it. It's a big part of our meetings of, what does the track normally start like? And then once it starts cooling off, where does it usually go? And you keep that in the back of your mind of, okay, hey, my car is doing this, but when the sun goes down, it's going to change. And is it going to change for my benefit or is it going to change for kind of our detriment, right? And we have to be ahead of that. So that part is a huge piece of what we look at and what we try to prepare for. And that's another big thing. It's of staying in the game. It's like sometimes, okay, your race doesn't start off how you want. You're kind of off the pace, but maybe it's going to come to you, and you have all night to work on it. Track's going to change. Things are going to figure itself out. It's just how can the teams adapt to everything. So that's a huge part of the 600, and that's why you see a lot of like guys who are strong early, they struggle late, or guys who are kind of struggling early, they kind of come on at the end of that race. That's why you see this huge change in the field.
I hate to break the theme about Coca-Cola 600 weekend, but one question I wanted to ask you is, you got the opportunity to go down with Chase and Daniel to Mexico City in a few weeks, where the race is going to
Yeah.
be down there. What was that vibe like down there? And what is your expectations for racing on the road course down there?
Yeah, that was great to go down there. We had a fantastic time. I appreciate everyone for hosting us, seeing the racetrack in person, getting to tour it a little bit, getting to tour the area. I'm really excited. I mean, I've been excited since day one, since they announced that we're going to go down to Mexico City and run that racetrack. And I used to watch Busch races out there. I watched the F1 races. It's just a great facility. And one of the best parts about it was, whether it was the media that was there when we did the press day, the fans that came out to the events, they're all incredibly excited for us to be there. They're really welcoming us with open arms. And that's all we can ask for, right? Because you never know, like all these new places we go, whether it's there, Chicago, when we went to North Wilkesboro again a few years ago, these new tracks, like you never know, like, okay, how are they going to accept or receive us? But it always makes us feel good as competitors, like, okay, they're really excited for this race and hopefully we put on a good show. So I look forward to it. I can't wait to get down there and then go compete. So
Yeah, speaking of North Wilkesboro, Ryan, Brett Keselowski created quite a stir in his media conference when he said that they should make North Wilkesboro a points race again, move the All-Star race back to Charlotte so that it has two dates, and then just drop the Roval entirely. I know that you won the first Roval race, obviously. You were part of the press conference last year when they announced some changes to the layout of the Roval. What do you think the future of Charlotte Motor Speedway's layouts and its two, three race dates, and ultimately whether we're going to the Roval or just going to the Oval should be?
yeah, I watched Brad's presser and I agreed with a lot of what he said. I like what he said. Um, I was asked all week last week at North Wilkesboro, it's like, should they have a points race? Should it stay the All-Star race? And honestly, I could go either way. Like as long as we're going there in some regard, I'm fine with it. Points or All-Star race. As far as the Charlotte race, whether it's two ovals or still keep it like we are, I think, the Oval puts on such a good show nowadays, that, it's hard to not want another Oval race there. Another Oval puts on a good show as well. But yeah, I mean, I'm biased. I run better at the Oval than I do at the Roval, personally. So maybe I'll side with Brad on that one, and I will be on his team.
You had two consecutive three-place finishes in these last two races. How does that shape your confidence and strategy heading into this weekend in Charlotte?
Yeah, I think it's going to be a really good racetrack for us. I enjoy going there. We've put together really good mile and a halfs so far this year, and hopefully that translates. And I was actually able to be a part of a tire test in Charlotte a couple months back, so it was nice to get a little bit more track time. We don't really get to test very often anymore, so it was good to spend a couple days going through some tires, working on a little bit of things that we could work on with the race car. So yeah, I have high hopes. I hope they stay high when come Saturday, and seeing what you got on the racetrack and when you unload. And if you got to go to work, you go to work. But yeah, I've been happy with where our program has been this year. So hopefully it can continue and continue to improve.
A couple years ago when you won this race, the winner now gets the honor of going to Arlington National Cemetery, laying a wreath there, and just taking that place in. NASCAR's always done such a good job of honoring the troops on this weekend. So, as somebody that hasn't just won that race, but you've been to Arlington, you've been through that, it's an incredible experience, but a sobering experience at the same time, I imagine. Does this race now have any extra weight added to it? And how does that affect you, seeing that firsthand, not just as something tied to a race weekend, but seeing families like you mentioned, and just taking that whole weekend in?
Well, it's a really important weekend. I was lucky I was able to see it when I was younger, when Dad was racing. What that weekend meant. It's not just a race going on. You have to understand what Memorial Day weekend is about. And that experience when I was able to go to Arlington, honestly, before I won it, I didn't know that was a thing, that they took the previous winner to Arlington and had a whole day. And, got to see the Tomb of the Unknown Soldier, do the wreath laying ceremony. Just being a part of all that was really, really special. And I tell you, it just puts it into perspective for you of, I put it when they asked me about it when I went up there a couple years ago, it puts it into perspective of like how small you actually are in the grand scheme of things, of what actually really matters. And, a lot of people that have laid down their life to let us do what we do on a week to week basis. It really just kind of reins it all in, right? And you kind of understand really what's important. So it was a humbling experience. I'm really hoping that I get the chance to go back to Arlington, because I'd love to bring my dad to see everything. And I think he would really appreciate, the people you meet, hear the history, meet family members, things like that, at Arlington. So it's definitely a special weekend. I think NASCAR does the best job out of any sport, of, whether it's honoring our current military members, remembering the ones who have lost their life. I think NASCAR is second to none when it comes to that. And I'm very proud of that. That's the way it should be.
A couple of weeks ago, you came to Mexico City. Speaking about it, is there anything you'd like to highlight specifically regarding the configurations and how the week will unfold?
Yeah, well, we had a fun couple days down in Mexico City, and whether it was going to a luchador match, which I really enjoyed because I like wrestling, was a big fan as a kid. Doing that, just going to a couple of the local eatery scenes, just being able to see the culture, because it was really neat to me. I've been to Mexico many times, but it was my first time in Mexico City, and so just learning about it, learning about the city. I didn't realize how many people lived in the Mexico City area. It's like one of the second largest cities or something like that. It's crazy, and that it was built on a dried up lake bed. I didn't know that either. So I was doing a little bit of history reading before I went. So I just love visiting new places, experiencing new things, experiencing different cultures. And part of my sport, right, racing, is like you find motorsports fans anywhere around the world, right? And it's just cool to have that connection. And so yeah, I had a blast. I can't wait to get down there. We're there for a long time. We're there Thursday to Monday. So if I can sneak away a little bit and find some new eatery spots, or if you have any suggestions, I'm up for anything. So
2 years ago, you won the race in the Mikey Bigdy for the show championship in Charlotte. What the keys winning the with the longest race of the year?
Yeah, the keys. I feel like just staying in the game, you know, like what I said earlier is, it's going to be ups and downs all night. The racetrack's going to change. You have 600 miles to figure it out. Just mentally staying in it, and not only me, like all the guys staying in the game, doing their job right, understanding what you want your race to look at the mile 450 mark, and I try to kind of break it up that way, kind of into quarters, right? 150, 300, 450, 600, like where do you want to be at each stage of this race and what does it look like for the end of this thing? So yeah, I think just you got to persevere all night. And we were able to do that two years ago. And because we weren't, we were really good early, we weren't the best car in the middle, and we got to be the best car at the end. So it's just like staying with it and staying kind of in touch with the lead and what your car needs, I think is some of the most important things.
So I got a question. I was listening to your appearance this morning on SiriusXM, and you talked about how people have said the short track package isn't that good, but you said it's not as bad as people think it is. So does this weekend at North Wilkesboro kind of prove that? And what do you think the reason for it was? Because it wasn't last year nearly as racy. So what do you attribute to the change in the raciness this year of North Wilkesboro?
Yeah. I mean, hey, don't get me wrong, the short track package can definitely be better. There's always things we can do to get it better. I think why you saw a really good race at North Wilkesboro was the track, and even compared to last year at North Wilkesboro, like the track was a little bit wider, I thought, this year than last year. So it just gave you more options, more lanes to search around and get clean air. I just wish that this car would work better and not as clean air, like where you don't need a full like lane or three-quarters of a lane of clean air to kind of get it. I wish it was like more a quarter of a lane of clean air, you'll be fine. So I just think the track got wider, and I think that's one of the biggest things. And a lot of these short tracks that we go to really don't have that wide of racing surfaces, I don't think. Like Martinsville, where you're kind of feeding on the curb, it's where it's hard to get clean air. Richmond, we run around a little bit, but the fastest lane's on the bottom. Bristol, it's like two lanes, either the bottom or the very top. So it's just hard to find clean air at some of these places. But Wilkesboro had, 3, 4 different lanes that you can kind of search around and find out where you need to go. And I think that's why you saw a pretty good race there.
You mentioned you were part of the tire test here at Charlotte. I know the softer tire is kind of a new thing for this year on the intermediates. What do you think about it? What are your thoughts with racing with it?
Yeah, we went through a lot of different tires at that test over 2 days, and it's easy to lose track of what compound, what mixture is that, and I need a spreadsheet of what everything was. But I think it's important that we continue to work down that road, of softer tires and things like that. And I mean, I give it to Goodyear, they get a lot of grief sometimes, but it's a hard job that they do, of trying to figure out what is the right mixture of everything. And like, they don't get a lot of tire tests, and they just present it at the racetrack, and then they just cross their fingers and they hope that it's a good race and tires don't blow out and it's what we asked for. And that's a hard job. So it's neat to work with those folks, trying to figure out what's the best way. But it is important to continue to work down as soft as we can get. Just tire wear, fall off, like that's just a big thing. So and they've done a good job. They've really been working hard and being on the teams and drivers of what we think and listening to feedback. So I applaud them for that, and hopefully we can continue down that path that we're on. I think it's a good path.
We talked about the car setups and the tire and everything. What's the toughest part about the 600 from the driver's seat?
Yeah, I mean it's the physical side. I think is tough. It's a long time being in there. It takes it out of you. It's usually fairly warm this time of year. The mental side is, I think, just as tough, of just staying in the game for 600 miles, trying to stay focused for that long. And I always just try to look towards the future of that race because I know it's so long. So I think just mentally staying in it is really, really tough. And it's not like it's it's a fast racetrack, right? You're really kind of putting your body through at each corner. And, but yeah, I think just the physical side is, I wouldn't say easy, but I've always found that to be, I train for these situations and I do it every single week to make sure I can physically be as good as I can. And then it's just how do you mentally train to keep your mind in the right spot for that long and how to stay locked in for that long. I think just trying to combine those two things is a pretty difficult thing to do. But the guys who can do it the best, they end up succeeding. And I think that's, like I said earlier, that's one of the biggest rewards of that thing. If you can put a long 600-mile nice work in, and if it pays off for you, my gosh, it's so rewarding when you can do that. And hopefully we can pull it off again.
Hey, Ryan, want to look ahead to next week at Nashville. It's unique being the only concrete intermediate on the schedule. From a driver's perspective and maybe to a fan who wouldn't necessarily know the difference, how does a concrete surface race differently than a typical asphalt surface, especially on an intermediate like Nashville?
Yeah, multiple things. It takes rubber differently. I always think it's fascinating that I tell people to look for is like at a concrete place like that to watch the progression level of rubber as we get on it. Like, the track starts off pretty white and then it just gets darker and darker and darker as we get rubber. And you can really see like lanes, like where's the top of the groove and things like that. Sometimes in asphalt, it's hard to tell. The asphalt's dark already and rubber laying it down. It's hard to see like the edge of grip. So it's easy to point out where the edge is there. And then I think another tough thing from the driving side is, right, they can't pave, unlike asphalt, they pave concrete in sections, right? It's like these blocks that they lay. Just like driving, if you ever drive, you get to a concrete section on the highway and you hear like a da-dunk, da-dunk, da-dunk. Like that's what we go through, in the race car, but we're just going really fast. And that's just kind of amplified. So trying to get over those humps every single, 20, 30 feet is pretty tough. And it kind of makes it for a handful for the drivers and then just different tire compounds, to go to your build's a little bit different compound for a concrete track as opposed to asphalt. Just as a driver trying to find the grip level from pavement to concrete is definitely a tough one.
It's a really big racing weekend, not just for NASCAR. Can you talk about that and then delve deeper into the mental side of people are walking by the TV and they're watching, whether they're watching IndyCar or NASCAR, they watch the 600. There you are in the car. And is it because boredom creeps in? Is it because it's so hot? You never hear drivers say, oh, it's hot, I can't stand it. You're in the game. What is truly the deep part of the mental side of it in the Coca-Cola 600? Not even for those who follow NASCAR, but maybe walk by on this big racing weekend. And what does the weekend mean to you for racing?
Yeah, I mean, it's the biggest weekend of motorsports, right? I get up Sunday morning, I watch Monaco, and then I get ready for Indy. And then, I usually watch Monaco from my house, and then at least the first part, and then I catch the end of it in the bus, and then I watch Indy at the racetrack, and then I get ready to go. So it's just a fun day for me too to watch and then participate in one of the races. But yeah, mentally, I mean, I think it's a great example of what you said, right? People might be walking by the TV screen, take a glance, get distracted by something else and go do something else. I can't do that, right? I'm locked in I can't get out of this thing. If you break concentration once, your race is over, right? You're wrecking or things like that. So it's just, how do you operate with 100% of focus for 4+ hours for 600 miles? Like it's a pretty difficult task for sure. So we work really hard at that. Like it's really tough to keep your concentration for that long, and especially at like kind of the tense sport of what we're doing is how do you stay calm in those situations for that long as well. So it's attention spans are hard. I'm not very good attention span with most other things, but racing I can kind of stay locked in because I care about it a lot and it's my job. But yeah, it's tough. I mean. But when you're in it, it's easier, I guess, if that makes sense. Like when you're in it doing it, like it's easier to be locked in than if you're just watching it, right? Like I'm not as locked in as these guys running the Indy 500 because I'm not racing in the Indy 500, right? But I am locked in when I'm doing my job and you're in your sport. So it just kind of varies. It's hard to be in people's shoes for sure. But yeah, it's just something that we train really hard for is try to keep, and that's every week, I mean, it's the same every week. This one's just a little bit longer.
My question is, given how you've had such high successes and unfortunate lows here at Charlotte, do you prepare anything differently If so, what are they? And do you think this weekend could be a turning point going into the summer stretch?
I hope so. I hope it's a good weekend. I feel like it's a big thing is like that I try to work on all the time is how do you deal with highs and lows? Like how do you I always just call it like riding the wave. You're going to be up and down, and it's just how do you kind of get over that? And if you're on the downside, how do you mentally break through to try to not be in like a mental slump? And how do you stay confident in yourself and your team, and then kind of rise to the occasion? So, and like you said, I've had kind of all the above at Charlotte, from a bunch of success there to don't finish the races, and that's just kind of the way it goes in the sport. That's just the way it is. But yeah, I work really hard on trying to just be always looking positive forward, and no matter how good or bad it's going, always try to look at what can we do next? How can we continue working and just be better as a group week to week? And luckily, I have a great group of people around me that have that same mentality. No matter if we don't finish the weekend before, if we win the weekend before, it's the same type of hunger and drive to just be better all together the next weekend. And I think that's how we've kind of cultured ourselves in the 12 camp. And that's a cool group to be around when everyone's mindsets kind of align like that. And you all have these common thinking.
Ryan, it seems like Penske's been locked in all year at intermediates, with Josh and Joey getting a win. You and Austin have led a bunch of laps. Compared to the last couple of years, like how far ahead do you feel like Penske is at the mile and a half this year?
I think we're way ahead. I've been really excited with the start of the year that Team Penske as a whole has had. Obviously I would have liked to have won already, but we've been in contention, and and some of the things that have shown that we've had bad finishes haven't really done anything wrong. A couple engine issues that we resolved, getting in a wreck early at Talladega, finishing last, and then getting in a wreck at Vegas with a fast car. Our cars have been really, really fast. And I think at the end of the day, it just comes down to preparation and people, and understanding where we need to be better. And, last year, in the beginning of the year, we had a new car, a new Mustang nose. So I think trying to get in a happy spot aerodynamically with that it was a challenge for us and all of four teams to kind of figure out, okay, what is the right combination? Because it was different than the year before in 23 or 22. And it took us a little bit to get our arms wrapped around it. But once we did, I think we've really taken off. And I think we just haven't really let up. The success that we had from the summer to the end of last year has just carried over. And it's just people figuring it out and always trying to find ways to be better. So it's been nice. Been really proud of the effort of all our folks at Team Penske for putting the effort in and forward, and everybody of understanding where we need to be and then applying it. So hopefully we can continue to build off the speed we've had early and keep it through the summer and into the fall.